Have you ever noticed that the things you chase the hardest seem to slip away the fastest? The more you want it, love, success, peace, the further it runs from you. It's like holding sand in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the quicker it escapes. But when you loosen your grip, when you stop chasing, something beautiful happens. It begins to find you. We live in a world that glorifies the hustle, the constant running, striving and chasing. But there's a quiet kind of power that's often overlooked, the power of alignment. When your energy, actions, and purpose are in sync, you don't have to chase, you attract. When you stop chasing, you shift from need to belief. You stop sending out signals of desperation and start radiating confidence. That's when the universe begins to respond. You stop saying, I need this, and start saying, I'm ready for what's meant for me. Think about it. The most powerful moments in life often come when you let go. The right people walk in when you stop trying to impress everyone. The right opportunities appear when you stop doubting yourself. The peace you've been searching for arrives the moment you stop running and finally allow yourself to be present. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting. It means believing that what's yours will find its way to you, no matter how long it takes. Chasing is born from fear, fear of not being enough, fear of missing out, fear of being left behind. But faith is calm, it's steady. It says, I don't need to chase what's already mine. When you focus on yourself, your growth, your purpose, your peace, you become magnetic. You stop begging for validation because your worth no longer depends on anyone else's recognition. You begin to attract people and opportunities that reflect your energy, not your insecurity. You ever notice how when you want something too bad, it keeps slipping further away? Like you're chasing it down the block, and the faster you run, the faster it disappears. That's life's way of teaching you something most people never understand, the lesson of letting go. See, the truth is, sometimes the harder you chase, the more resistance you create. You start pushing away what's already on its way to you. That's not weakness, that's energy. The universe don't respond to pressure, it responds to alignment. Letting go ain't about quitting, it's about understanding that not everything you hold on to is meant to stay. Some things come into your life to teach you, not to stay with you. Some people arrive to wake you up, not walk with you forever. The problem is we hold on too tight to relationships, to dreams, to identities that don't serve us anymore. We think holding tighter means we care more when really it just means we're afraid of what happens if we lose control. But growth, real growth, doesn't live in control. Growth lives in trust. It lives in the moments where you say, I did my part. Now I'm going to let life do its part. That's when things start to unfold. Let me tell you a quick story. There was this gardener who had a handful of seeds. Every day he'd dig up the soil just to check if the seeds had started to grow. He'd water them, then dig them back up again because he couldn't wait to see results. After a few days, none of them sprouted. The man got frustrated, said the seeds were bad, and threw them away. But the truth was, the seeds never got a chance to breathe. They never got a chance to grow. He was so impatient for results that he killed the process himself. Now think about that. How many of us are like that gardener? We plant an idea, a dream, a goal, and before it has time to grow, we start digging it up, doubting it, stressing over it, trying to force results. We forget that growth takes silence, patience, and space. When you stop chasing, you stop interrupting what's already happening for you. You ever notice how the best things in life come when you least expect them? That's not coincidence, that's rhythm. Life has its own beat, and when you keep trying to force it, you throw yourself off tempo. But when you move with it, when you let the beat carry you instead of chasing the next note, you start flowing. That's why letting go is powerful, because it puts you back in rhythm with life. There's a quote I live by: when you stop looking for what you want, you start seeing what you need. Think about that. Sometimes the reason you don't get what you're chasing is because it's not what's meant for your journey. You're trying to run after something small while life's trying to hand you something bigger. But you can't receive it because your hands are too full holding on to what's not working. You got to learn how to unclench your fists. Let go of that person who keeps draining your peace. Let go of that plan that ain't flowing. Let go of the version of yourself that's stuck on survival mode. When you release what doesn't serve your purpose, you make space for what does. That's when you start to see doors open that you didn't even know existed. See, letting go is not about losing. It's about choosing peace over chaos, growth over comfort, alignment over attachment. It's the shift from fear to faith, from needing to trusting, from casing to attracting. And that brings me to the next truth. Energy attracts energy. That's one of life's most powerful laws, and most people sleep on it. You ever wonder why, when you're feeling low, everything seems to go wrong? People start acting weird, opportunities dry up, and it feels like life's against you. That's not bad luck. That's energy mirroring back what you're putting out. When you walk into a room, you carry a frequency with you. You might not say a word, but people can feel your spirit before you speak. Energy don't lie. You can fake a smile, but you can't fake your vibe. And life always responds to your vibration, not your intentions. You can say you want success, but if your energy screams fear, doubt, or desperation, the universe will keep sending you lessons instead of blessings. Let me paint it like this. Imagine two magnets, one positive, one negative. If you're chasing something with negative energy, jealousy, greed, impatience, you're basically pushing it away. The polarities don't match. But when your energy is grounded, when it's calm, confident, patient, everything that aligns with that energy starts moving toward you naturally. You don't have to run after it. There was a time when I used to think the grind was everything. If I wasn't working, I wasn't winning. But then I realized sometimes you can work every day and still not move forward because your energy ain't right. You're grinding from fear, not purpose. You're chasing validation instead of vision. When that's your fuel, you'll always burn out. But when your fuel is alignment, when your heart and hustle are moving in the same direction, you stop chasing and start attracting. You might think it's luck when people start saying everything just falls into place. For someone, it's not luck, it's alignment. That person isn't forcing what's not for them. They're not trying to control the timing. They're moving in flow, trusting that what's meant for them won't miss them. That's a level of peace money can't buy. And let's be real, it takes maturity to reach that point. It's not easy to stop chasing when the world keeps telling you to run faster. It's not easy to trust when you've been disappointed, but you got to understand your energy is your signature. If you move with anxiety, you attract chaos. If you move with patience and self-belief, you attract stability. That's how energy works. There's a saying, don't chase people. Be yourself. Do your thing. Work hard. The right people, the ones who belong in your life, will come to you and stay. That quote's real because it speaks to energy. When you focus on yourself, when you elevate your mindset, when you move with purpose, people who match that vibration will show up without you having to chase. You'll start seeing opportunities that once seemed out of reach. That's not magic. That's energy alignment. Let me give you an example. I knew this dude who spent years chasing deals, chasing attention, chasing validation. He was always talking about making it, but his moves were never grounded. One day he got tired, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So he stepped back, stopped chasing, focused on mastering his craft instead of marketing his image. Months later, things started to click. Opportunities started reaching out to him. What changed? Not the world. His energy did. He went from chasing to attracting, from trying to prove himself to simply being himself. See, when you align your energy with your purpose, everything around you begins to shift. People start treating you differently. Life starts responding differently. That's because you stopped begging for what's already yours. You stepped into your own power, and you got to protect that power. Guard your energy like it's gold, because it is. Be mindful of who you spend time with. Some people drain your spirit without saying a word. They carry heavy energy, and if you're not careful, you'll start carrying it too. The same way one negative thought can ruin your whole mood, one negative person can block your blessings. Protect your frequency. Because once you understand how energy works, you realize your vibe is your value. A lot of people don't know this, but success is 90% energy and 10% execution. You can have the same strategy as someone else, but if your mindset and energy are off, you get a completely different result. That's why some people seem to get opportunities effortlessly. They're not forcing them. Their inner world is aligned with what they want on the outside. And that alignment starts with peace. Peace is power. When you're at peace, you're in control. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop rushing and start receiving. That's when the shift happens. That's when what you used to chase starts showing up for you. Because your energy finally matches your desires. Here's something I learned. What you attract isn't based on what you want. It's based on what you believe. You can want success all day, but if deep down you believe you're not ready or worthy, you'll block it. That's why self-belief is key. You have to embody the version of yourself who already has what you want, even before it shows up. That's not pretending. That's alignment. There's power in patience, and there's magic in letting go. When you release the pressure of needing everything now, you open the space for miracles to happen. You stop forcing and start flowing. That's when everything you've been working for starts moving in your direction. You just have to stop chasing and start trusting. People often say, you attract what you are. That's real talk. If you want love, be love. If you want peace, live peace. If you want success, carry yourself like success already lives inside you. You don't chase abundance when you already know you are abundant. You don't chase validation when you already know your worth. You don't chase timing when you already trust your path. So the next time you catch yourself chasing, stop, breathe. Ask yourself, am I chasing this because it's meant for me or because I'm afraid of being without it? That one question can change your whole life, because when you start operating from faith instead of fear, your energy shifts. And once your energy shifts, everything around you starts rearranging to match it. Letting go isn't losing control. It's mastering it. It's saying, I don't need to force what's already mine. When you move like that, you move different. You talk different. You attract different. You start walking like you know the universe is working in your favor. And that's when it does. At the end of the day, you got to remember this: what's chasing you can't miss you, and what's running from you was never meant to stay. Let go. Align your energy. Be still, but be ready. Because when your energy is right and your heart is pure, life don't make you chase. It brings everything you need right to your feet. Patience is one of the realest strengths you can ever develop. Everybody talks about hustle. Everybody talks about grind, but almost nobody talks about patience. We live in a time where people want everything right now. Fast success, fast money, fast fame. But anything that comes quick usually leaves just as fast. The truth is, patience is what separates the ones who last from the ones who only shine for a season. You got to understand, time is part of the process. Every seed needs time before it breaks through the ground. You can't rush that moment. You can water it, you can nurture it, but you can't control when it blooms. That's life. You plant the work, you water it with consistency, you give it sunlight with faith, then you wait. And that waiting, that's where your character is built. Most people quit during that waiting period. They start doubting themselves. They compare their timing to someone else's. But you can't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. What's meant for you might take longer because it's building a stronger foundation. Some blessings take time because you're still becoming the person who can handle them. There's a story about bamboo that I always liked. When you plant bamboo, for the first few years, nothing happens above ground. You water it, you care for it, but you see no growth. Then in the 5th year, it shoots up almost 90 feet in a matter of weeks. Did it grow in those few weeks? No, it was growing the whole time. Just underground, building strong roots that could support its height. That's how patience works. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Some of your biggest progress is invisible. It's happening inside you, in your discipline, your mindset, your resilience. There's a quote I live by: don't rush the process, trust the process. Because rushing it only creates cracks in your foundation. You can't build an empire on unstable ground. You might get what you want fast, but if you didn't build the patience to sustain it, you'll lose it even faster. The grind gives you the skills, but patience gives you the wisdom. See, patience isn't passive. It's not about sitting around doing nothing. It's about doing everything you can today while trusting that the results will show when they're supposed to. It's knowing that every step, no matter how small, is moving you closer to where you're meant to be. You might not see it right now, but one day it's all going to connect. Every delay, every rejection, every disappointment, it's part of the alignment. Sometimes life makes you wait because it's protecting you. You think you're ready, but there's still something you need to learn. Maybe it's emotional maturity. Maybe it's discipline. Maybe it's learning how to value what you're asking for. Because if you got it too early, you might not appreciate it. Timing isn't punishment. It's preparation. I remember hearing about this boxer who trained for years before his first major fight. He said, I was ready to quit so many times, but I knew if I gave up in the gym, I'd never survive in the ring. That's patience. That's understanding that preparation happens long before opportunity arrives. People only see the moment you win, but they don't see the years you spent getting ready for it. Patience is power because it teaches you control. When you're patient, you stop reacting emotionally. You stop chasing after everything that glitters. You start moving with intention. You start making decisions from wisdom instead of desperation. That's when you become unstoppable because you're not being pulled by impulses anymore. You're being guided by purpose. And that brings me to the next truth: self-focus over outcome. This one right here is what transforms people. Because most of us grew up being told to chase results. The car, the house, the title, the recognition. But real power comes when you stop focusing on the outcome and start focusing on yourself. When you work on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts what you want. You don't have to chase it anymore, you become it. You stop saying, I want success, and start saying, I want to be the kind of person who earns success. That small shift changes everything. There's a difference between chasing the goal and becoming the person who deserves it. The first one is temporary. The second one is transformation. When you focus on yourself, you start improving your discipline, your habits, your mindset, your peace. You start realizing that the real reward isn't what you get, it's who you become while getting there. I knew a dude who used to say he wanted to make $1 million. Every week he'd try a new hustle, flipping this, trading that, chasing every trend. He made a little money here and there, but he kept burning out. One day I asked him, what if instead of chasing $1 million, you focused on becoming the type of man who can build $1 million business? That hit him. Because once you become that person, you'll never have to chase money again. It'll follow you. You got to understand, success is a reflection of who you are, not just what you do. You can't attract greatness if you're surrounded by bad habits, negative thinking, or lack of discipline. That's why the real work is internal. You can't skip the self-work and expect to hold the rewards. The reason people lose what they gain too fast is because they got the outcome before they built the character to sustain it. That's why I always say the journey is the blessing, because it's in that journey that you sharpen your tools, you toughen your mind, you learn patience, you learn humility. That's where the transformation happens. There's a quote that goes, "The goal is not to look successful, it's to become valuable." When you focus on value, results chase you. When you focus on appearance, you end up chasing validation. And validation is a trap, because no matter how much you get, you'll always need more. But when you focus on growing, on improving, on being better than you were yesterday, your results will reflect it. Every day ask yourself, am I growing? Not did I win? Because the wins will come if you keep growing. You can't control outcomes, but you can control effort, energy, and attitude. That's your real power. The more you invest in those, the more success starts coming to you naturally. Focus on the process. Fall in love with it. Because when you love the process, the result becomes inevitable. People lose motivation because they only love the finish line. But the real ones, they love the grind. They find beauty in the repetition. They understand that greatness isn't built in moments of glory. It's built in quiet hours when nobody's watching. There's a story about a sculptor who spent years working on one statue. Every day he'd chip away at the stone little by little. One day someone asked him, "Why are you spending so much time on this one piece?" The sculptor smiled and said, "Because every strike brings me closer to perfection." That's focus. That's understanding that mastery takes time. He wasn't worried about when it'd be done. He was focused on doing it right. And that's the mindset you need. Stop counting the days. Start making the days count. When you focus on growth, time doesn't intimidate you anymore. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You start understanding that your pace is your power, because nobody can take away what you built patiently and intentionally. When you focus on yourself, you also stop taking things personally. You realize that not every delay is rejection. Sometimes it's redirection. The world might tell you no today, but that's only because you're being guided to something better tomorrow. You start seeing setbacks as setups. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Try me." That level of confidence only comes when you've done the inner work. When you know your value, you don't chase opportunities. You create them. You don't need to beg for a seat at someone else's table. You build your own. That's self-focus. That's power. But understand this, self-focus doesn't mean selfishness. It means prioritizing your peace, your purpose, your personal evolution. Because when you're right within, everything outside starts aligning. When your mindset is solid, you handle pressure differently. You move different. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing people's approval because your validation comes from within. The world will test you. It'll try to distract you, make you question your progress. That's when you need to remind yourself, slow progress is still progress. As long as you're moving, you're winning. The only real loss is when you stop believing in yourself. There's a line I once heard, "Don't watch the clock, be the clock." Meaning, stop letting time pressure you. You set the rhythm, you set the tempo. Success doesn't follow a stopwatch. It follows consistency. Every second you spend growing, learning, and staying true to your purpose is time invested, not wasted. And remember, patience and self-focus go hand in hand. You can't master one without the other. Patience teaches you to wait without giving up. Self-focus teaches you to build without losing yourself. Together, they turn pressure into power. One day, you'll look back and realize that everything you wanted came to you. Not when you chased it, but when you were finally ready for it. And you got ready by waiting, learning, growing, and becoming. Because that's the secret most people miss. When you master yourself, you master your life. So keep watering your seeds, even when you don't see results yet. Keep showing up, even when nobody's clapping. Keep believing, even when it feels slow. Because patience is power, and the focus you put into yourself will always return with interest. Your timing is your timing. Your path is your path. Don't rush the process, respect it. Don't chase the outcome, become the outcome. The world doesn't reward the one who moves the fastest. It rewards the one who moves with purpose. And when you start moving like that, everything you've been working for will move toward you, not because you forced it, but because you grew into it. That's when the real shift happens. That's when life stops testing your patience and starts rewarding your growth. Discipline and consistency. That's the quiet power that separates the dreamers from the doers. Everybody got vision, but not everybody got structure. You can talk about success all day, but if you're not disciplined enough to follow through when it gets hard, your dreams stay stuck in your head. People love the idea of success, but they don't love the process. The process requires you to show up when you don't feel like it, to do the work when nobody's watching, to stay locked in even when results move slow. Discipline is the bridge between intention and manifestation. Without it, all you got is potential. And potential don't pay bills, don't build legacy, don't change your life. It's your habits that do that. You can't control how fast something happens, but you can control how consistent you are. You can control how you move, how you think, and how you react. That's where your power lies, in what you can control. There's this story about a marathon runner who trained for a year straight before his first race. Every morning he'd get up at 5 a.m. and run, no matter the weather. Rain, heat, cold, didn't matter. The people around him used to laugh. Said, man, nobody's watching. You can take a day off. He'd just smile and keep running. When race day came, he didn't win first place, but he didn't stop either. He finished strong while others dropped out halfway. That's discipline. It's not about perfection. It's about endurance. It's about finishing what you start. You got to understand, discipline isn't built overnight. It's built in the moments when quitting feels easier. Every time you push past that comfort zone, you're building mental muscle. That's what turns motivation into momentum. Motivation fades, discipline sustains. There's a quote that says, you will never always be motivated, so you must learn to be disciplined. That's real. Motivation is like a spark. It lights you up for a second. Discipline is the engine. It keeps you moving when that spark burns out. You can't depend on how you feel every day because feelings change. You might feel tired, uninspired, frustrated, but discipline don't care. Discipline said, we got work to do. Most people want to feel ready before they start, but you'll never feel fully ready. The secret is to start anyway, then keep showing up until it feels natural. That's how you build rhythm. Once you have rhythm, it turns into consistency. Once you have consistency, it turns into mastery. I remember a friend who wanted to start a business. He kept saying, I'm waiting for the right time. I told him, there is no right time. The right time starts when you do. He finally started, but after a few months, he lost motivation because the growth was slow. I told him, you planted the seed. Now let the soil do its job. Months later, he came back with steady results. Not overnight success, but consistent income. That's the beauty of discipline. It doesn't always give you fast results, but it guarantees real ones. Consistency is how you earn trust from people, from opportunities, from life itself. If you're inconsistent, even life won't trust you with big blessings. You got to prove that you can handle small ones first. That's why I always say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. If you cut corners on small stuff, you'll cut corners on the big stuff too. If you can't show up for yourself, how can you expect the world to show up for you? And understand this, discipline doesn't mean doing everything at once. It means doing what matters most over and over until it becomes a part of who you are. You can't fake discipline. You can post about hustle all you want, but the truth always shows in your results. Your habits are your real resume. When you stay consistent long enough, something powerful happens. Your energy starts to change. You move different. You stop chasing motivation because momentum becomes your new fuel. You stop talking about what you're going to do because you're already doing it. That's the quiet confidence discipline gives you. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Your results start speaking for themselves. There's another layer to this, though. Focus. Discipline without focus is like running fast in the wrong direction. You got to know what you're building, who you're becoming, and where you're headed. Every day, ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now taking me closer to my vision or further away from it? That question keeps you aligned. And here's where the next key comes in, self-awareness. Because without that, discipline can turn into burnout. You got to know yourself well enough to understand your limits, your triggers, your rhythms. Self-awareness is that keeps your discipline on course. See, self-awareness isn't just about knowing your strengths. It's about facing your flaws with honesty. It's about being real with yourself when you're slipping, not making excuses. A lot of people can't grow because they're too busy lying to themselves. They blame circumstances, they blame people, they blame luck, but they never look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm the reason it's not working. That level of honesty hurts, but it's also where freedom starts. There's a quote that says, you can't fix what you won't face. That's the truth. Until you face your patterns, the procrastination, the fear, the distractions, you'll keep running in circles. Self-awareness gives you the power to stop repeating cycles and start creating progress. I knew a guy who used to jump from one project to another. Every time something didn't blow up fast enough, he'd drop it and start something new. He kept saying he was looking for the right thing, but really he was avoiding the hard truth that he couldn't stay consistent. Once he realized that and started focusing on fixing his habits instead of switching his hustle, things started changing. It wasn't the idea that needed fixing, it was him. That's self-awareness. You can't grow if you're not observing yourself. Every setback, every mistake, every failure, it's feedback, it's data, it's life showing you where you need to adjust. But most people ignore those lessons because ego gets in the way. They'd rather protect their pride than protect their progress. Growth demands humility. You got to be willing to say, I don't know everything. You got to be willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn. The world changes fast, and if you're stuck in your old mindset, you'll get left behind. The ones who stay ahead are the ones who stay aware, aware of their habits, their energy, their evolution. Self-awareness also means being intentional about your environment. You can't expect to grow in places that keep you small. Pay attention to who you surround yourself with. Are they challenging you or draining you? Are they pushing you forward or keeping you comfortable? Sometimes your growth requires distance. Not out of hate, but out of self-preservation. You can love people and still know they can't go where you're going. That's self-awareness too, knowing when to outgrow your environment without guilt. Because when you're focused on your vision, not everyone will understand your moves. And that's okay. You're not supposed to be understood by everyone. You're supposed to be aligned with your purpose. There's this story of an eagle raised among chickens. It never tried to fly because it thought it was one of them. One day, another eagle saw it and said, "You belong in the sky." The eagle said, "No, I belong here." The other eagle told it, "You'll never know what's possible until you spread your wings." The eagle hesitated, then finally jumped, and for the first time it flew. That's what self-awareness does. It reminds you really are when life tries to make you forget. Sometimes you're not stuck, you're just comfortable. Self-awareness exposes that comfort and challenges you to move differently. It makes you uncomfortable with your own excuses. And once that happens, growth becomes non-negotiable. The combination of discipline and self-awareness is what builds empires. Discipline gives you structure, self-awareness gives you direction. Discipline says, keep going. Self-awareness says, make sure you're going the right way. Without one, the other collapses. When you know yourself, you stop fighting with time. You stop comparing your chapter to someone else's. You realize that your pace is your own. Your lessons are your own. Your process is your own. You stop chasing validation because you understand your value. That's the kind of peace you can't fake. Every day, check in with yourself. Ask, am I still moving with purpose or just moving out of habit? Because even good routines can turn into traps if you forget why you started. Purpose keeps discipline alive. Awareness keeps purpose alive. It's all connected. And remember, growth is messy. You're going to fall off sometimes. You're going to doubt yourself. That's part of it. But if you're self-aware, you'll catch yourself faster. You'll recognize when you're slipping, and you'll correct it before it turns into a downfall. That's the power of knowing yourself. You can't be easily shaken when you know where your center is. People spend their whole lives looking for control, but the only real control you ever have is over yourself. Your choices, your effort, your response. That's where power lies. When you master that, life stops controlling you. At the end of the day, it's not about chasing success. It's about becoming someone success can't ignore. Discipline and self-awareness build that version of you. They build the mindset, the patience, the resilience, the focus that attracts what's meant for you. Every day is a test, not of your talent, but of your discipline. Not of your luck, but of your awareness. The question is, are you moving with intention, or are you just moving? Are you reacting to life, or are you creating it? The ones who win long-term aren't the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who move the smartest. They know when to push, when to pause, when to learn, when to rest, when to realign. They study themselves as much as they study their craft. That's mastery. Because in the end, success isn't about arriving somewhere. It's about evolving into someone. And that evolution, that journey of discipline, patience, awareness, and growth is the real reward. So stop chasing what doesn't flow. Stop forcing what's not fitting. When you finally surrender the need to control, life surprises you in the most unexpected ways. Remember, what's meant for you doesn't run away. It finds its way home. Be still. Be focused. Be ready. Because when you stop chasing, everything you've been running after starts running toward you.